Mark, what's that?
Shabbat shalom, everyone. We're just doing a few technical things.
That's great for me for levels. So, what's your challenge, Daniel? What do you need to do? Daniel, sorry, Joseph. Sorry, I'm getting confused there. So, that okay. Daniel, you've got hourglass again. You should have now, Daniel. You should have Felicity and Joseph on the screen. Daniel, I suggest you stop the screen share while you try and sort that out. Stop your screen share, Daniel Brown.
Kevin, can you hear me?
Yes, I was going to ask you. I just didn't want to interrupt them too. But how's your connection this morning?
Well, I don't know.
So far, so good. You're loud and clear.
Oh, good. Okay, fine. I've got
And I'm
two
not
other
even complaining about you being loud and clear. Sometimes I do, but no, but it's nice to have you loud and clear.
Okay, but if it deteriorates, just shut me down.
Oh well, don't worry. It'll give me great pleasure.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Oh, we've got Neil here. That's the relief.
Well, that helps, doesn't it?
It always worries me when the rabbi turns up. Okay, it's not late, but not very early either. Because if it's without any rabbis, I'd have to ask Adrian to lead the service. Not that he'd mind.
Morning, Shabbat Shalom.
Good morning.
You don't have
Neil, surely you can manage without a tie in this.
You'll be forgiven without a tie. So long as you're wearing trousers. Are you wearing trousers, Neil? Are you?
That's a secret. That's for me to know and for you to find.
Exactly, Kevin. That's too personal a question.
Well,
there you go.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. That's okay. We've had an emergency uprights and practice meeting. You have permission to take your tie off, if you wish.
Okay, I'll take it off then, shall I?
Good.
Kevin, do we have some mitzvot to allocate?
Yes, I was going to ask you. Right, Janet providing her internet connection is stable. We'll be reading Haftorah.
Okay.
Okay. Adrian, in an emergency, if Janet kind of loses connection, is it okay to ask you to step in? Just appear as an emergency.
Haftorah. Firstly, what is the Haftorah portion?
It's Psalm 19. It's lovely.
Lovely. It's a lovely reading. It's a good one.
Psalm 19. Okay, I'll go and dig out Tanakh. So
it's in your. If you want to, Adrian, it's in your Siddur on page 114. So you could use that translation.
Oh, wow.
Thank you. I'd much rather have just the one book on my lap.
Yeah.
Okay. We'll see your advice. So what mitzvahs are we going to allocate now? It's up to you.
Well, do we want someone to do the Torah blessings?
I'd love it if somebody does the Torah blessings. That's always maybe when Hannah's connected. So we wait to, normally what happens is people now turn up a bit later. It's this thing that in the old days they turn up quite early because they're trying to connect. And now everybody thinks they can get in like 2 minutes. So another few minutes. We never start spot on at 11 o'clock either because of traffic and all that.
Yeah.
Down the stairs it might be, yeah.
There's people trying to get their trousers on, Kevin.
Yeah, I'm glad you said on. The other thing, as you know, it's a Jam Kazam.
Yeah.
Right. Which does happen, there's technical problems. You might need to just kind of
fill in.
Yes. So be on standby for bits that you didn't think you were going to sing. You might have to, or
no problem.
And we're hoping it will work. Obviously, that's the idea, but we need to have a contingency.
And I don't know if we want to have someone to do the community prayers and prayer of the royal family in the state of Israel. We can also see if we can find someone to do those.
Yeah, that's normally a good one. We normally try to do one each. We'll see who turns up. But, there's always someone willing.
Great.
I'm quite happy to do something if nobody volunteers, but we'll see who turns
See who
up.
turns up.
Yeah, we've given up a few minutes. I know Hannah's always up for something. Alan likes to sort of
Yeah.
do
And
something.
Maureen, Alison, all sorts of people.
Yeah, I'm not sure if
Just
Maureen's
done this
okay.
morning.
What's happened
I
here?
want to know if Mark and Daniel are talking to each other.
They are. They're probably discussing technical things about how to work, how it's working. I've been in Daniel's position before, and it's sort of stressful because you're working between two different screens and it's getting it together. So
Right.
they're working hard behind the scenes, and they're probably
I'm a bit
doing
worried
because of the
Joe's
bad language.
disappeared. Where's Joseph disappeared to?
No, he's on YouTube. He's on another video, so he's here.
Okay.
It's Joseph and Felicity. That's the thing. So we're combining one screen with another, and the magic about technology, everybody should be talking to each other. What could possibly go wrong?
Morning. This is Mark.
Hi, Mark. Nice to see
Oh,
you.
Neil, long time no see.
Yeah, very good to see you.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
indeed, sir. Yeah. Right, so the Jam Kazam team, I think Daniel's giving me a thumbs up as well.
Oh,
I
it's
think
so good.
this morning. Daniel, it's the first time he's hosted this for us with Jam Kazam. This should be hopefully, well, the Jam Kazam is stable at the moment, which is good. It is an interesting piece of technology, but it does allow us, we've had actually up to 3 people now, and we think we can even get 4 people singing at once on Jam Kazam. The one thing for everybody to be aware of, I think, Neil, you'll be the only person who may not be aware of this, there is about an 8-second delay between the Jam Kazam and when we share it into... One thing for everybody to be aware of, I think, Neil, you'll be the only person who may not be aware of this. Daniel, I think you need to mute because you've got the sound on that's 8 seconds delay. Zoom.
Mark, should I be muted at the moment?
Yes, you need to be muted, Daniel. Yeah, so as you could hear there, what you got was the treat of, because I'm also live on the Jam Kazam, you could hear the impact of the 8-second delay.
Yeah, Joseph had forewarned me that there was I don't know.
So what we actually do is, the reason you're hearing that is because Joseph relies on the fact that when you're queuing them in, they actually try and start playing 5-6 seconds early, so that it's classic radio broadcasting stuff about starting the old turntable spinning ahead of when you need it. And we will hopefully get that right. It's easier at the end because Daniel can just stop the share and then that's okay. Right. Daniel, when you do the share, you don't even need to, as long as you hit that use original computer sound, as long as you remember to have that ticked, then the sound will share even though you're muted. Okay?
Are you okay? Say yes, Daniel. Otherwise, Hannah will have to take over.
Yeah, sorted. Okay.
I think the only other thing, I might need to be made a co-host so I can share my screen later for the Torah reading.
Yeah, let me do that straight away. Thank you for reminding me. Because there's be multiple. There you are. You're now co-host. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. What I also like to do, we obviously like to make this interactive as possible. So now Janet's reading Haftorah. Alan, would you like to either do the Torah blessings or perhaps one of the community prayers?
It's talking about Torah blessings.
Alan can speak yourself, Janet.
Yeah. Yes, okay.
Yeah. With it.
Thank you, Kev, provided that our sound system doesn't break up. Yesterday, Zoom call, it was causing all sorts of problems, but we might have fixed it. So if my voice breaks up altogether, then somebody else can take over. I'm afraid. Yes, thank you.
So what would you like to do?
What do you want to do?
I thought we said the Torah blessings.
Okay, fine. Thank you. Torah blessings. Okay, Neil's written it down. No turning back. Hannah, would you like to do any special requests? It'd help if you unmute yourself. Unmute yourself. Can anyone lip read?
No, Hannah, unmute.
She's saying, how does she do it? That's what she's saying.
Yes.
It's like you've always done it. I can't.
She knows how to do it.
Alan, when you were around there, couldn't have you?
No, well, she don't.
There we are. You're right,
no
Hannah.
need.
What would you like to do?
Hello, I need to be unmuted because I can't see how to unmute myself.
You're unmuted.
I am now, but I
Yes.
couldn't when you asked me to. Yeah, I was hoping to do the Torah blessings, but then, you know.
Okay, you did a tour of blessings. Alan, would you like to do one of the community blessings?
Okay, sure. I'll do the one for Israel, shall I?
Yeah, okay.
The last one.
You.
I'll do
Okay.
the Israel one.
Oh, God,
Thank you.
no, Schultz. Fair enough.
You can unmute me when we come to the Torah blessings.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't want to cause issues in the service.
It's sometimes difficult for me. If you can manage to unmute yourself, that will help. But I will try.
How to do it. If you explain to me what to do, what to press, because
Usually it's in the top right-hand corner. That's just
unmute
the mouse.
themselves.
The top right.
Depends. No, sometimes it's bottom left, sometimes it's bottom
It
right.
depends on your screen.
You can't generalize.
Okay, Rosemary, would you like to do one of the community blessings apart from the Israel one?
Yeah, the only thing is that I've got to leave at about 12:15. I don't know. I better.
Okay, we'll leave it just in case you're gone. Okay, no, I'm going to get Jeff to tie you to your chair until you've done your mitzvah.
Well, we're going out for lunch, so I better say no in case we're not there by 12. Will we be there by 12:15?
I would have thought so.
Oh, which
Depends.
blessing?
The prayer for the royal family?
Yes, fine.
The prayer for Boris. And hello, Hepzibah again.
Good morning. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom to you. Would you like to recite the community prayer?
Okay, that's fine.
The guys Hepzibah's doing the community prayer. So I think that's the 3 prayers and the Torah blessings. And the rest is up to you, unless you think it may be halfway through or at some stage you might want to invite anybody at random and quite you're happy to fill in. Hello, Linda, welcome, all the way from Stevenage.
Hello, Shabbat Shalom, everybody.
Shabbat Shalom.
As well. Adrian's on standby if any of the Solomons drop out, okay? So you're the Solomon substitutes. Is that okay, Adrian and Lindsay?
Wi-Fi is running slow or something.
So we'll have you. So, and we've got Jam Kazam seems to be in hand. So that's kind of what could possibly go wrong.
We've lost
everything.
Life, dear boy, life.
Yeah. George is. Yeah, we'll wait for George because he's probably having trouble setting up the video. We normally start at 5 past.
I should put my talit on.
Yeah, yeah.
No,
you don't even have to put it on. It's you, Neil.
George, I'm not having problems. This time we're purely passive. We're just going to have it on as a service. We'll just listen.
Okay, you're not visible. That's fine. That's your choice.
Okay.
Yeah.
Also,
I'll say Shabbat Shalom to everyone who's on the streaming.
Back to normal next time.
Yeah, okay, that's fine, George. It's, as I say, there's quite a few people actually do it through the streaming because they like to watch but not be seen, which is fair enough. Oh, you've got your talent on. That is completely unnecessary, Neil. But if you feel more comfortable, you can take your shirt off and just have your talent on. Yeah, I'd also like to welcome everyone on live streaming. I don't know who you are, or yeah, I know something that they do listen to us from the streaming. So whoever you're out there, Shabbat Shalom, and you can't answer back. Again, can we explain this is when we say experimental, we have tried it twice before. It's the third time lucky of what's called Jam Kazam, where we're going to have 2 singers in one go singing in synchronization. Hopefully. So this is groundbreaking. It doesn't always work exactly.
Where's Joseph?
He's on Jam
We would like it to, but when it does work, it's absolutely brilliant use of technology. So bear with us if it doesn't go quite right. Thank you to Daniel for actually trying to be sort of operating it. And I'm glad it's not me and it's you in this occasion, but good luck. And so Hannah, your hands up.
Yes, I just wanted to say that occasionally and more frequently than I wish, my whole screen freezes over. So just to warn you, if it does, I have to do what I can to bring it back again. But it does happen, I'm afraid.
It happens to all of us. We're in the lapse of the technology as well, unfortunately.
Okay, right.
It's just one of those things. We know if you've got
it just goes, Kevin, it just goes to show it can be 39 degrees outside, but you can freeze inside.
Adrian, that was a Kevin joke. It was his standard.
Yeah, it was that bad. It was a Kevin. Adrian, you've been spending.
I didn't say it was up to my normal standard.
No, well, your normal standard's pretty low, darling. So that's
Just speak to my husband like that. His standard is very high.
Okay. Anyway, without any further ado, we've got Neil James. Very privileged to have Neil James to lead our service. So I'm going to mute you all, including myself, and leave it up to Neil. Shabbat Shalom again.
Brilliant. Thank you. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Thanks, Kevin. And thank you, Dan.
Unmute yourself.
Thanks, Kevin. And Shabbat Shalom to everyone. And thanks to Kevin and to Mark and Daniel and then Joseph and I think Felicity, is it, who's doing the music. As Kevin has said, the service is going to be led using this Jam Kazam technology that allows us to have two musicians at the same time providing us with music, which is cutting edge. We are leading the way in our services. Nobody else is trying out this method that allows us to have two musicians. So we'll get underway. The service is going to be service number 4, which has some 3 lovely pieces of music within the introduction up until the Baruch Hu. And we're going to begin on page 122 with Ma Tovu. We continue at the foot of page 122. Please join with me as we read. Eternal God, we come before you surrounded by members of our community. With them we share our happiness and it becomes greater, our troubles and they become smaller. May we never be too mean to give nor too proud to receive, for in giving and receiving we discover you and begin to understand the meaning of life. Let us not separate ourselves from the true strength of our community, the experience and wisdom of old people, the hopes of the young, and the examples of care and courage which sustain us. Give us an open mind and a generous heart to welcome those who need us and to admit your presence into our daily life. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, Ozeh Yisrael bigvura. We praise you, eternal God, sovereign of the universe, for the strength that comes to us through our community. And we continue over the page on page 124. Ashreinu, happy are we, how good is our portion, how pleasant our lot, how beautiful our heritage, sung by Joseph and Felicity.
Daniel, we need to share, please.
Are we going to share, or shall I keep going?
Can you, for this one, Neil, just whilst we're trying to sort things out, if you'd like to do Ashreinu for us, please, Neil?
I'll keep going. I'll keep going. So, Ashreinu, 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 Matov, 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 Chelkenu, Ashreinu, Ashreinu, Matov, 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 Chelkenu, Umanayim, 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 Goralenu, Umanayim, 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 Goralenu, Umanayim, 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 Goralenu, Umanayim, 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 Goralenu, Umayafa, Mayafa, 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 Yerushatenu, Ashreinu. Baruch She'ama v'haya ha'olam Baruch Hu, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech ha'olam, המולל בפי עמו משובח ומפואר בלשון חסידיו ועבדיו, בשפחות ובזמירות, נגדל לך ונמליכך מלכנו יחיד חי העולמים. ברוך אתה אדוני, מלך מהולל בתשבחות. In the middle of page 125, the italics, we read together before Nishmat. Are we going to be ready for Jam Kazam, or shall I keep going again? A nod from either Mark or Daniel?
It looks like they're trying to sort out their technical hitches. Okay. So until
they're still
go ahead, keep going.
We'll keep going. Baruch, we'll read together. Praise be the Eternal One forever. Amen and amen. Praise be the eternal God, the God of Israel, who does wonderful things. Let God's glorious name be praised forever, and let the whole earth be filled with God's glory. Amen and amen. Nishmat kol achai, tavarech et shimcha, Adonai Eloheinu, v'ruach kol basar, tefaheh utrameim, Zichrecha Malkeinu Tamid Min Haolam Ve'at Haolam Ata El Ata As we continue reading on page 126, either Mark or Daniel, if you can put in the chat whether you're ready to share again when we get to the next piece, I'll at least know if it's working. We read, God of all ages, of all generations, of all creatures, to whom our praise ascends, you guide the world with constant love, your children with tender care. To you alone we give thanks. Yet though our mouths should overflow with song as the sea, our tongues with exultation as the roaring waves, and our lips with praise as heaven's wide expanse. And though our eyes shine as the sun and moon, our arms spread forth like the wings of eagles, and our feet speed swiftly as hinds, still we could not fully thank you, eternal God, for your infinite kindness to our ancestors and to us. Therefore, the limbs you have formed in us, the spirit you have breathed into us, and the tongue you have set in our mouths, all shall unite to thank and praise, extol you and exalt you, the sovereign God. Every mouth shall thank you, every tongue bear witness to you, every knee shall bend to you, every body bow down to you, every heart shall revere you, and every fibre of our being shall sing your praise. For so it is written, all my bones shall say, who is like you, eternal one? Therefore we extol you and proclaim your glory and praise your holy name, as it is said, praise the eternal one, O my soul. Let all that is within me praise God's holy name.
Yes. Okay, cool.
Every mouth shall thank you, every tongue bear witness.
Okay.
My bones shall say, who is like you, eternal one? Therefore we extol you and proclaim your glory and praise your holy name, as it is said. And we continue on page 135 with Yishtabach. Yishtabach Shemcha La'ad Malkeinu, Ha'el HaMelech HaGadol VaHaKadosh VaShamayim UVa'aretz. Ki lecha na'eh Adonai Eloheinu ve'lehe Avotenu, shir u'shvecha, Halel ve'zimra, Brachot v'hodaot me'ata ve'ad olam. Baruch Ata Adonai, Habocheh b'shirei Zimra. Baruchu. Lai 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 lai. Baruch hu et Adonai HaMevorach HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Le'olam Le'olam va'ed. Lai 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 lai. And on page 136 we read, Baruch Ata Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, Yotzer or u'varei choshech, Osei shalom u'varei et hakol, Hame'el la'aretz v'ladaramim, U'v'tuvo machadesh b'chol yom tamid ma'aseh v'reishit. Ma'rabu ma'asech Adonai, Kulam b'chochma asita, Mala ha'aretz kinyanecha. Titbarach Adonai Eloheinu al shevach ma'aseh yadecha, Ve'al ma'orei or she'asita yifa'arucha sela. Baruch Ata Adonai, Yotzer HaMa'orot. Great is your love for us, eternal God, and abundant your compassion. Our ancestors trusted in you, and you taught them the laws of life. So be gracious to us and teach us. Incline our hearts to hear your words, to know and understand, to learn and teach, and with love to uphold the truths of your Torah. Enlighten us with your teaching. Make us faithful to your commandments and wholehearted in the love and awe of your name. For in love you summon us to serve you and proclaim your unity. We praise you, O God. In love you have called your people Israel to serve you. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kavod Shem Kavod Malchuto Leolam Leolam Vahem. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavecha u'v'chol nafshecha u'v'chol me'odecha v'hayu hadavarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavacha hayom al levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam v'shiftecha b'veitecha u'v'lechtecha v'derech u'v'shochbecha u'v'kumecha u'kushatam le'od al yadecha v'hayu letotafot beinenecha u'chetavtam al mezuzot beitecha uvish arecha. Leman tizkaru v'asitem et kol mitzvotai v'yitem kedoshim le'Elohechem. Ani Adonai Elohechem asher hotzeti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם אמת. אמת ויציב וישר וקיים, וטוב ויפה הדבר הזה עלינו לעולם ועד. אמת שאתה הוא אדוני אלוהינו ואלוהי אבותינו, מלכנו מלך אבותינו, יוצרנו צור ישועתנו, פודנו מצילנו מעולם ושמך, אין אלוהים זולתך. אמת אתה הוא ראשון ואתה הוא אחרון, ומבלעדיך אין לנו מושיע. ממצרים גאלתנו אדוני אלוהינו, מבית עבדים פליטנו. משה ומרים ובני ישראל, לך אנו שירה בשמחה רבה, ואמרו כולם.
Daniel, we need to share, please.
I think what we need to do, perhaps if Neil can continue, it's kind of because it's still kind of delayed the flow. So if Neil can continue.
Go.
בעזרת ישראל, ועלינו אדוני צבאות שמו, קדוש ישראל, ברוך אתה אדוני, גאל ישראל. Now we turn over to page 140, and I'll come the other night before handing back to Rabbi Neil for the Amidah. Adonai Sabatifta Ufia Itahilateha Adonai Sabatifta Ufia Itahilateha.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו ואלוהי אבותינו ואמותינו, אלוהי אברהם, אלוהי יצחק ואלוהי יעקב, אלוהי שרה, אלוהי רבקה, אלוהי רחל ואלוהי לאה, האל הגדול, הגיבור והנורא, אל עליון, גומל חסדים טובים, קונה הכל, וזוכר חסדי אבות ואמהות, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם למען שמו באהבה. מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם ועזרת שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיי מתים אתה רב להושיע, משיב הרוח ומוריד הגשם, מזריח השמש ומוריד הטל. מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיי מתים ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר. מי כמוך בעל גבורות, ומי דומה לך, מלך ממית ומחיה ומצמיח ישועה. ונאמן אתה להחיות מתים, ברוך אתה אדוני, מחיי המתים. We continue with the Kedusha, sung by Joseph and Felicity on page 141.
Neil, would you like to do that because of the delays we're having, just to keep it flowing? Neil, I'd like you to sing it.
Okay.
Oh well, we're back there. This will be probably the final one we're going to do.
That's fine. That's fine, Kevin.
Yeah, this will be the final one. Sorry, everyone. It's just not flowing how we would have liked, but we'll see how this goes.
Well, Daniel, you need to unmute yourself, I think.
Yep, that's it. Yep. Daniel, if you unmute yourself, then we'll hear them. I've been in your shoes before, Daniel. I know it's not easy.
Okay, maybe we can stop the...
Okay.
You inspired our ancestors to hallow this day.
I'd like to say this blessing because I don't think anyone can hear Joseph.
Well, no, I would just like to turn off the sharing if we can, because we can't hear Joseph.
And I would, if you don't mind, could I say this?
Please, Kevin. That would be lovely.
Okay. You inspired our ancestors to hallow this day for your service. When upon its coming, we pause to contemplate our life. We learn anew that we do not live by bread alone, but also by the spiritual nourishment received when we open ourselves to your influence.
We continue on page 143. We'll get over all of these hitches with sound with Yismachu. Please sing with me. Yismachu b'malachutecha shomrei 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 Shabbat v'korei oneg Shabbat. Yismachu b'malachutecha shomrei 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 Shabbat v'korei oneg Shabbat. Mekadashei shali Shabbat kulam yisbahu v'yitangu mituvecha Shabbat ישמחו במלאכותך, שומרי 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 שבת וקוראי עונג שבת. ישמחו במלאכותך, שומרי 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 שבת וקוראי עונג שבת. והשביעי רצית בו וקידשתו שבת, חמדת ימים אותו קראת שבת. ישמחו במלאכותך, שומרי 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 שבת וקוראי עונג שבת. ישמחו במלאכותך, שומרי 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 שבת וקוראי עונג שבת. זכר למעשה וראשית שבת, זכר למעשה וראשית שבת. ישמחו במלאכותך, שומרי 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 שבת וקוראי עונג שבת. ישמחו במלאכותך, שומרי 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 שבת וקוראי עונג שבת. Our God and God of our ancestors, may our rest on this day be pleasing in your sight. Sanctify us by your commandments and make us loyal to your teaching. Satisfy us with your goodness. Gladden us with your salvation and purify our hearts to serve you in truth. In your gracious love, Eternal One, let the holiness of your Sabbath enter our hearts, and may all Israel who hallow your name be exalted by its peace. We praise you, O God, for the holiness of the Sabbath. We're going to continue with our prayers for peace towards the foot of page 144. I'm conscious, Rosemary, you've got a mitzvah and we need to get to it before 12:15. So let's keep going through the service. At the foot of the page then. Grant peace, welfare and blessing, grace, love and mercy to us and to all Israel, your people. As a loving parent, bless us with the light of your presence. For by the light of your presence, eternal God, you have revealed to us the law of life, a love of kindness and righteousness, blessing and mercy, life and peace. For it is good in your sight that your people Israel and all peoples be blessed at all times with your gift of peace. We praise you, O God, the source of peace. And on page 146, the Yehiula Ratzon is actually from Psalm 19 that we'll hear later in our Haftarah. So we sing, Yehiula Ratzon im lefi ve'gion libi lefanecha Adonai tzuri ve'goali. Ose shalom mimromav, yaseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol bnei Adam. Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. 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 And our Torah service continues on page 481. Page 481. Ein kamocha ve'elohim Adonai, ve'ein kamahasecha, malachutecha malachut kol olamim, וממשלתך בכל דור ודור. אדוני מלך, אדוני מלך, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. אדוני עוז לעמו ייתן, אדוני יברך את עמו ושלום. שמע ישראל, אדוני אלוהינו, אדוני אחד. אחד אלוהינו, גדול אדוננו, קדוש שמו. גדלו לאדוני איתי, ונרוממו שמו יחדיו. We continue with the Torah reading, which I'm going to share in just a moment. But before we get there, the Torah reading we're going to be reading is Parashat Ekev, which is in the book of Deuteronomy. We're going to be reading actually Deuteronomy 11 verses 13 to 21. Before I share on screen what we're reading, actually we're going to be reading what's known as the Ol Mitzvot, the yoke of the mitzvot. It's the traditional second paragraph of the Shema that we don't have in our prayer books, in our Siddurim, although in true liberal fashion, having the integrity to include the liturgy, but not where it is. The full 3 paragraphs of the Shema are included in this Siddur, but at the back of the book, but they're not on the pages in front of you when you get to the Shema. And you'll notice here that there's a second time we hear a mention of these. Who knows what these are? Those are some of you with a more traditional...
Tefillin.
They are tefillin, indeed. These are my shel rosh. This is the head tefillin. Here's the arm tefillin, and I'm sure you've seen Leonard Nimoy with his tefillin on, or Madonna with her tefillin on. She has a rather alternative photo shoot done with
Barbara Streisand as well, I've seen.
Barbara Streisand as well. So you're going to hear mention the reference to the binding them as a sign upon your hand and upon your head. Again, the difference between the first paragraph of the Shema that we read in our service and this paragraph in the second paragraph is that it's in the second person plural. So it's you collective rather than you individual. And the paragraph switches between plural and singular all the way through. Now I wanted to share one fun thing with you. Well, it's a rabbinic fun thing. So if you don't find it very fun, I apologize now. You'll just have to deal with it. Let me share on screen with you. Hopefully this is going to work. I hope now you can see in front of you a website that's the Dead Sea Scrolls Digital Library. So the last, 10 years have seen this burgeoning of digitization of manuscripts from Jewish tradition. And here you can see I've pulled up from the Dead Sea Scrolls. So it's talking the last century before the Common Era and the first century in the Common Era, so sort of 2,000 years ago. These are images of tefillin manuscripts that were found in the Judean desert 2,000 years ago. If I bring one up that's a bit larger, here you can see the fragments of text that were found, and they found various different fragments. I actually couldn't identify because they don't give you what bit of the Torah it's taken from, and the writing is not exactly clear. But they found all sorts of texts from the Dead Sea Scroll Tefillin collection. And just to show you that, can you see that? A new slide. These are the boxes, the equivalent of these, that were found in the Dead Sea Scrolls of Tefillin 2,000 years ago. So I thought that was a kind of fun thing to see on screen. So Tefillin is something that had been around for a very, very long time. Now, we're going to be reading the whole paragraph. The paragraph from the Torah we're going to be reading that in a moment Hannah is going to do the blessings for is one of the most problematic theological sections of liturgy, which is why we took it out. Because it says effectively, if you're good, then God will reward you. If you're bad, God won't. And of course, we know life is not that simple. That's one of the reasons why it was removed from our prayer book. as part of our liturgy. We'll come back to what we can do with that later on. But for now, Hannah, can I invite you please to recite the blessings?
Baruch hu et Adonai hamavorach.
Baruch Adonai hamavorach leolam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai hamavorach leolam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim, v'natan lanu et torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten ha'torah.
Amen. And here we have V'haya im shamoa tishma'u el mitzvotai asher anochi mitzaveh etchem hayom li'ahava et Adonai Elohechem ule'ovdo b'chol levavachem ובכל נפשכם. ונתתי מטר ארצכם בעיתו, יורה ומלקוש, ואספת דגנך ותרשך ויצהריך. ונתתי עשב בשדיך לבנתך, ואכלת ושבעת. הישמרו לכם פן יבטא לבבכם, ושרתם ועבדתם אלוהים אחרים, והשתחוויתם להם. וחרה אף אדוני בכם, ועצר את השמיים, ולא יהיה מטר, והאדמה לא תיתן את יבולה. ועבדתם מהרה מעל הארץ הטובה, אשר אדוני נותן לכם. ושמתם את דברי אלה על לבבכם ועל נפשכם, וקשרתם אותם לאות על ידיכם, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניכם. ולימדתם אותם את בניכם לדבר בם, בשבתך בביתך, ובלכתך בדרך, ובשוכבך ובקומך. וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך. למען ירבו ימיכם, וימי בניכם על האדמה, אשר נשבע אדוני לאבותיכם, לתת להם כימי השמיים על הארץ. Hannah.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu torat emet, v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai, noten haTorah.
Amen. So we move from this strange world of God rewarding us with the rains in their due season, the Malkosh and the Yoreh. The Yoreh was the early rain, and the Malkosh was the late rain. And we move from this world of creation to Psalm 19, which can be found in your Siddur on page 114 for the Haftarah. And the Psalm takes us from God's dominion over the world into a truly beautiful reflection of Torah, which we read at the end of our Torah service. And since we're in the mood for discovering things about the ancient traditions of Judaism, the section, Torah Adonai Tamimah, God's teaching is perfect, reviving the soul, is already recorded 1600 or 1700 years ago as being part of the Torah service. So when we include it in our Torah service now, we're doing something that Jews have done for thousands of years. But it's now found, its place in the Bible is from Psalm 19, which I think, if I'm not correct, Janet is going to read. There we go. I found my place.
As Neil said, this morning's Haftarah is Psalm 19. I'm reading from the Tanakh, and it's on page 1126. You can also find it in the Siddur on page 114. And I'm reading this in memory of my aunt Susan Benjamin, whose yahrzeit falls this week, and of her sister, my mother Stella Macklin, whose birthday it would be today. Two wonderful women who are much missed by the whole family. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bachar b'nviim tovim, v'rotza v'divrehem hane'emorim ba'emet. Baruch atah Adonai, Boker b'Torah, uv-Moshe avdo, uv-Yisrael amo, uv-Imviei ha'emet v'tzedek. For the leader, a psalm of David. The heavens declare the glory of God, the sky proclaims his handiwork. Day to day makes utterance, night to night speaks out. There is no utterance, There are no words whose sound goes unheard. Their voice carries throughout the earth, their words to the end of the world. He placed in them a tent for the sun, who is like a groom coming forth from the chamber, like a hero eager to run his course. His rising place is at one end of heaven, and his circuit reaches the other. Nothing escapes his heat. The teaching of the Lord is perfect, renewing life. The decrees of the Lord are enduring, making the simple wise. The precepts of the Lord are just, rejoicing the heart. The instruction of the Lord is lucid, making the eyes light up. The fear of the Lord is pure, abiding forever. The judgments of the Lord are true, righteous altogether, more desirable than gold, than much fine gold, sweeter than honey, than drippings of the comb. Your servant pays them heed. In obeying them there is much reward. Who can be aware of errors? Clear me of unperceived guilt, and from wilful sins keep your servant. Let them not dominate me. Then shall I be blameless and clear of grave offense. May the words of my mouth and the prayer of my heart be acceptable to you, O Lord, my rock and my redeemer. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, sur kol ha'olamim, sadik b'kol ha'dorot, ha'el ha'ne'emon, ha'omer v'yosei, ha'medaber u'makayem, shekol deberov, emet v'tzedek. Al ha'torah, v'al ha'avodah, v'al hamviim v'al yom ha'shabbat hazeh, shenatata lonu, Adonai Eloheinu, l'kedusha v'limnucha, v'chovod u'latif ha'aret, Al hakol Adonai Eloheinu, anachnu modim loch, u'mavorachim otoch, yitbarach shimcha b'fi kol chai tomid le'olam va'ed, Baruch atah Adonai, Mekadesh HaShabbat.
Amen. Thank you. And thank you for that for paying tribute to those women in your lives as well. I wish you long life. I'm going to share now a prayer for healing before we move into our wider community prayers. It's customary while the Torah service is proceeding to have these moments to reflect on those around us in need of healing, of pain and anxiety. So I want to pause for a moment. If there's anyone you're thinking of at this time in need of healing, that there'll be a moment for you to say their name either on or off mute on the Zoom or privately to yourself as you wish. And so we begin with our prayers for healing. Mi shabeirach avoteinu Avraham Yitzchak v'Yaakov Sarah Rivka Rachel v'Leah u'yivarech v'yirapeh et hacholim Elna Rafana Elna Rafana la Elna Rafana Elna Rafana la. We pause to name those in need of healing, our friends, family, community.
My cousin Nikki and her husband Mel.
Jeff Wolf, who spent 137 days in hospital with COVID-19 and who is now in rehab, and he's got a long way to go.
Mi shabeirach avoteinu Avraham Yitzchak v'Yaakov Sarah Rivka Rachel v'Leah u'yivarech v'yirapeh et hacholim Elna Rafana Elna Rafana la invite Rosemary to please read the prayer for the royal family. Rosemary, you're on mute, I'm afraid. Could you take yourself off mute?
Eternal God, whose dominion embraces the universe, we ask your blessing for our sovereign lady, Queen Elizabeth, and all the royal family, for those who govern our country and all who influence the quality of its national life. Make them conscious of their responsibility and teach them to exercise it in accordance with your will. May we all help to fashion in this country a society that excels in freedom and justice, tolerance and compassion, so that it may be a force for righteousness and peace in the life of humanity. Eternal God, as you blessed our ancestors in generations past, bless now this congregation, its leaders and its members.
Rosemary, I think Hepzibah was going to read that paragraph. Thank you. Thank you.
Eternal God, as you blessed our ancestors in generations past, bless now this congregation, its leaders and its members, and all who enter the synagogue to meet, to study, and to pray. Comfort the sorrowing hearts among us, and heal those in anxiety or pain. May we all find here community and friendship, renewal of purpose and hope, a deeper understanding of our heritage, and a sense of your abiding presence. Bless all congregations of the House of Israel throughout the world. Let those who live under oppressive rule soon be freed, and may we all unite to witness to your truth and to your will.
Amen.
Eternal God, our rock and redeemer, grant blessing to the state of Israel, created to fulfill an age-old dream and to be a haven for the oppressed. Inspire its leaders and citizens with faithfulness to the aims of its founders, to develop the land for the benefit of all its inhabitants, and to implement the prophetic ideals of liberty and justice. May they live in harmony with one another and in peace with their neighbors, and cause to come true once more the ancient vision that out of Zion shall go forth Torah and the word of God from Jerusalem.
Amen. I see Joseph has joined us on the Zoom call. Is that because he's going to accompany us or not through Zoom?
I believe what's happening, we've had, oh, hello. So Joseph, you speak.
No. Okay. Well, we're going to continue.
We've had a few conversations behind the scenes. They know what actually went wrong. They can have one more go for a song on it. So they're just something that what they should have done, they haven't done, and they believe they can get it right. So we haven't totally given up on the Jam Kazam.
Okay. So, but shall I continue, Kevin?
Yes.
Okay. So we continue on page 486. Yahalelu et Shem Adonai ki niskav shemo levado. Hodo al eretz v'shamayim v'yarem keren liyamo tehila l'chol chasidav livnei Yisrael am karovo. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. On page 488, we find our words from Psalm 19 read communally. God's teaching is perfect, reviving the soul. God's word is unfailing, making wise the simple. God's precepts are right, delighting the mind. God's commandments are clear, enlightening the eyes. God's doctrine is pure, enduring forever. God's guidance is true and altogether just. Ki lekach tov natati lechem, torati al ta'azovu, eitz chayim hi lemachazikim ba v'tomcheha me'usha, doracheha darchei noem, v'chol nativoteha shalom. Hashivenu Adonai elecha v'nashuva chadesh yameinu k'kedem chadesh yameinu k'kedem. So I thought it's always August when I feel like you've had enough sermons and rabbis are getting ready for their sermons in Rosh Hashanah as well. But I wanted to share with you something different this week instead of a more formal sermon. And that is something connected to the book of Deuteronomy, which we'll just have 5 minutes or so exploring the history of the book of Deuteronomy. And we'll discover, I hope, first of all, that Deuteronomy, we think, is one of the oldest of the sections of the Torah, and it's certainly something was already written back when King Josiah does his reforms before the Babylonian exile. He's presented with a book from the temple by the priests, and he reads it out loud to the whole community. And some people think maybe that was the book of Deuteronomy, but the style of language of Deuteronomy is very reminiscent of many other treaties that were struck. If you were, I don't know how good your knowledge of the ancient Near East is, but if you were an empire coming in to overpower a country, you came in and you got them to sign an agreement. Or in fact, they didn't sign it. It didn't matter if they signed it. You presented them with an agreement and said, here you go, this is what you're doing. Which reminds me, my children this week presented me with a contract for pocket money. They decided that they would come to me with a list of chores that they were prepared to do, but they also determined how much they would receive to be paid for them as well. So I said, that's a bit of a fait accompli. I think I need to think about this. But if you were an empire, the Babylonian Empire in the 6th century, or the Assyrian Empire in the 7th and 8th century, or the Egyptian Empire, you came in, you presented everybody with a treaty, and the treaty was, you do this, we will treat you right. If you don't pay your taxes, if you don't show fealty to the king, if you don't behave yourselves and you start to rebel, we will send in our armies and we will obliterate you, and probably will also exile you from your land. So we find, I'm going to share this with you now, a treaty this is actually from the 7th century. There are lots of these treaties around, but this is a treaty which is from the Assyrian king, Esarhaddon, and it was reproduced 10 times to send to all of his empire. And it was, in fact, if I scroll down, it was on tablets. So the reason why we have these texts is because they weren't written on manuscript. They were printed. They were chiseled in, sculpted in, what's the correct word? Imprinted onto clay. And because they were on clay, we actually have the copies of them, multiple copies, that has allowed scholars to piece them back together. So this is a 7th century text. And it's, in fact, this is the succession treaty. So Esarhaddon is worried when he dies that there's going to be a conflict and people won't be loyal to his son, who he appoints as his successor. So he has this treaty sent out to all of his vassal countries saying, this is what you need to do. He says, you shall neither change nor alter the word of Esarhaddon, king of Assyria. Sound familiar? You shall not alter the words of this Torah. Right? It's all very similar. But serve this very Assurbanipal, that's his son, the great crown prince designate, whom Esarhaddon, king of Assyria, your lord, has presented to you. He shall exercise kingship and dominion over you. So it goes on. Actually, this is edited a lot. You shall keep absolute honesty with respect to Assurbanipal, the great crown prince designate. So it goes on. You shall always serve them in a true and fitting manner. Speak with them with heartfelt truth and protect them in town and country. This idea of speaking with heartfelt truth is very characteristic of the book of Deuteronomy. Talk about, you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, heartfelt truth. You shall love Assurbanipal, the great crown prince, designate son of Esarhaddon, king of Assyria, your lord, like yourselves. Guard this treaty. Do not sin against your treaty and annihilate yourselves. Do not turn your land over to destruction and your people to deportation, exile. May this matter, which is acceptable to God and mankind, be acceptable to you. May it be good to you. Tough if it isn't, really, let's face it. While you stand on the place of this oath, you shall not swear this oath with your lips only, but swear it wholeheartedly. And then you shall vishinantam levanecha ledaber bam. You shall teach it to your sons to be born after this treaty. If you should remove it, and this is that now. If you don't follow it, this is the little bit that it gets worse. But this is the piece I wanted to pick out about the curses. If you don't follow it, may Adad, the canal inspector of heaven and earth, cut off seasonal flooding from your land, deprive your fields of grain. May he submerge your land with a great flood. May the locust who diminishes the land devour your harvest. May the sound of mill or oven be lacking from your houses. May the grain for grinding disappear from you. Instead of grain, may your son and your daughters grind your bones. This is going to sound really Deuteronomic now, by the way. May not even your first finger joint dip in the dough. May the something of your bowels eat up the dough. May a mother bar the daughter, her daughter. In your hunger, eat the flesh of your sons. That's an almost exact replica of what we find in Deuteronomy. In want and famine, may one man eat the flesh of another. May one man clothe himself in another's skin. May dogs and swine eat your flesh. May your ghost have nobody to take care of the pouring of libations to him. Just as rain does not fall from a brazen heaven, so may rain and dew not come upon your fields and your meadows. Instead of dew, may burning coals rain on your land. So it's a pretty grim treaty. But actually what we find, and scholars think, is that the Deuteronomic author used this language of being a vassal state and applied it to God. And then we get our unique sense of there's going to be no other king ever for all time. But the promises and the curses, the blessings and curses we find in Deuteronomy, that simplistic measure for measure, you obey, all will be good. You don't obey, you'll be exiled, is taken most likely from the ancient Near Eastern vassal treaties. And so we find that that was the model that they could understand. What does it mean to have a king who has power over us? It's like the emperor, the king, who comes in and says, you do what you're supposed to do, then I will reward you. If you don't do what you're supposed to do, I will bring all of the gods that I have on my side and they'll destroy you. And then not only will they destroy your land, I'm going to exile you. We find here the beginnings of the theology of the ancient Israelite world, because the ancient Israelite world then switches and says, when the empire comes in and exiles you, it's no longer the empire that's doing that. Who's doing it? You're all very silent. You're on mute. This is brilliant. Congregants that don't answer back. If you're a Babylonian king, you've got Baal and Ashtar and Marduk. You've got all of these gods. You come in, you say, they're the gods that are working this for me. They're on my side. What does the ancient Israelite religion say? No, it's not your gods. It's Adonai. It's just one God. So the theology evolves to become the idea that even the empires, when they're acting, thinking they've got their God on their side, there's no longer the case. That there's one God and God acts through all of the foreign empires as well as in the land of Israel. And this is the paradigm that develops. Now, I'm going to finish just by saying it's problematic, of course, for us to understand it in this way, because we don't see reward and punishment in the same direct measure for measure occurring. And so even the rabbis struggle with the theology that's described here. The rains didn't always come at the right time, and they couldn't always find someone who was a sinner to blame it on. That was just part of life. And I think what happens, in some respects, incorporating the second paragraph of the Shema into the liturgy, I think is not the metaphorical language that some people have argued for, that this is a reminder of how we behave affects the natural world, which is why the Reform movement in this country reintroduced that paragraph or kept it in their Siddur, because they said it's about ecology. actually, I think what we're seeing here is the world doesn't function according to the simple rules that we would like it to function along. And so when the world feels chaotic, we look towards things that seem very black and white, not because we believe that's how things are, but because it's, in a way, it speaks to our psychology of what we would like things to be like. And the second paragraph of the Shema, when I read it, I don't read it as how things work, as the science of, or the natural order of things, of the theology, but I read it as a deeply psychological reflection of, when my life feels chaotic, I look to my texts and I see in there a desire for things to be more straightforward. And when I read them in their very straightforward black and white way, I then realize that that is never what the world I want to live in. I don't want to live in a world that everything kind of fits together so perfectly, because then you don't get the grayness of the complexity, the texture and the color, even whilst that means that things happen in the world that we feel are unjust. We don't see God acting in the world in that way. We see God very differently as liberal Jews. And we see the natural world as something that we have to, in some ways, come to terms with and grapple with and struggle with. And the chaos that it brings, as we've seen in recent weeks and months, is something that we have to also struggle with in our lives. And perhaps that's what the second paragraph, the Shema, can remind us of, even whilst I'm not a fan of including it in the liturgy as we find it today. So we move all the way from 7th, 8th century before the Common Era to present time, and the challenges are still the same. And maybe that's part of what it means to be human, is we don't have insight into the world and its order, but we do have an insight into our relationships. So with that, sharing that little text, you can find all of these treaties online, in fact, and you can brush up on your tablet writing if you want. This, I forget where this website was from, but we're going to move to the conclusion of our service with the Aleinu.
Before we do that, Joseph actually has got a planned anthem, which I've been assured the technology has been sorted out, who knows, so has been planned, and I'm sure it's been very good. So what I would like to, before we do the Aleinu, is ask Daniel to share the screen, tick the sound box, and get Joseph in, and Mark does what he needs to do so it all goes ahead seamlessly.
Natural world as something that you have to come to terms with and grapple with and struggle with, and the chaos that it brings.
Right, and we can hear the end of the sermon again. Mark, is that anything you can do just to
also struggle with in our lives?
Daniel, can you forward talk with the bar to the right, as we discussed before?
I'm not a fan.
That's it.
In righteousness, in justice, in mercy, in faith, I will betroth you to me forever. To the Aleinu, so leave the screen share going, and we'll go into the Aleinu after that. And we'll continue with the Elenu on page 520, page 520. This is actually my setting of the Elenu. Just bear with me 1 second. My setting of the Elenu. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Joseph, if you stop the share screen now, please. Thank you.
We continue on page 522. Before Kaddish. Creator of the universe, you give us life in which joys and sorrows are commingled in accordance with your wisdom, and you send death with its promise of eternal peace. Teach us to accept humbly and courageously whatever burden is laid upon us. Comfort those who mourn, and let the light of faith illumine the darkness of their sorrow with the hope of immortality. Strengthen us at all times with an unfailing trust in your providence. We pause to remember all those whose yahrzeits fall at this time. And also it was a fairly devastating week for the world to witness what happened in Beirut. And I think we also just pause for a moment to think of the lives that were lost in terrible disaster. Within our community, we're remembering Susie Stiasny, mother of Patricia Graves and sister of Claudia Rose, and Susan Benjamin, aunt of Janet Solomon. May all that was good and noble in their lives continue to be for a blessing. Zichronam livracha, as we say together on page 524. Yit gadal v'yit kadash shemei rabah, bi'alma divra chirutei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayeichon v'yomeichon, uv'chayei dechol beit Yisrael, ba'agalau v'zman kariv v'imru, amen. Yehei shemei rabah mavarach la'alam u'lamei almaya, Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'a v'yitramam v'yitnaseh, v'yithada v'yitaleh v'yithalal shemei dekodashah barichu. Le'ela min kol berchata v'shirata, tushbachata v'nechemata, v'amiran be'alma v'imru, amen. Yehi shalama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'imru, amen. Osei shalom b'mromav, O Yaseh Shalom, Aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'al kol b'nei Adam, v'imru. Amen. Kevin, do we have any announcements?
Yes, we have a few. First of all, thank you very much, Neil, for leading what was a wonderful, very informative service, bringing into sort of context about punishments, rewards, and bring it, into perspective with modern time. You always give us plenty of food for thought. So thank you again, and for also your musical accompaniment. That's probably a bit more than what was planned, but thank you for stepping in. Also, thank you for Daniel, Mark, Joseph, facility behind the scenes. I know it wasn't quite seamless or smooth as we would have liked, but I think it was improving towards the end. This is work in progress. We've got an R&P meeting on Monday, so we're trying to think, if we do use it again, how we can get it to be closer to perfection, but we were getting there. So thank you for all those who were working hard behind the scenes. Sunday, if you actually look at the website, there's always something going on, a talk or quiz or something. We've actually got a talk about furniture restoration at 4 o'clock tomorrow. So it's Phil Silverton doing it. So if that's your kind of area of interest, I recommend you tune into that. Next Friday is joint with the Reform service, the Friday night service. And next Saturday, we're privileged to have Andrew Goldstein leading. And again, we'll have some more wisdom from himself. And it'll be Joseph singing solo as well. Is there any, Alan, Hannah, put your hand up if you've got any announcements to add? Or anybody else in the room that... Oh, Janet, I knew there'd be something from the
Just to let you know, on Tuesday the 18th, it's another Meet the Author. And this time it's Adele Franklin, one of our members. She's a lot of fun. She's very bubbly. She's been published through Amazon and she's being interviewed by Judy Silverton. So the Silvertons are being busy. But I think it would be nice to give Adele some support. She's a lovely lady. She's doing a huge amount online for her community out in Uxbridge at the moment. So it'd be nice to see everybody there.
Virtually. Oh, virtually. Right, we're going to try... Are we finished? We're going to try to download along through our Jam Kazam feed. So, Daniel, when you're ready, do what you have to do with sharing the screen and tick that box that makes the sound better. And mute, and everyone mute themselves.
So, be nice to see everybody there virtually. Right, we're going to try.
בטרם כל יצירה, איי איי איי, לעת נסר בחפצו כל, איי איי בחפצו כל, אזי מלך שמו נקרא, איי איי איי, ואחרי ככלות הכל, לבדו ימלוך hamshilo lechakbira, ay, ay, ay. Beli reshit, beli taklit, ay, ay, beli taklit, velo ha'oz ve'hamisra, ay, ay, ay. Ve'hu ari, ve'hai gwali, ve'tzur hevi be'etz hara, ve'hu nisi, umanos li, menat kosi be'yam ekra. Beyado, akliduchi, ve'etishan ve'aira, ve'imruchi, geviati, Adonai li Eloira.
Wow, what a rousing conclusion. Thank you.
Fabulous. Thank you so much. And we're going to finish before Kiddush.
Daniel, just stop the screen share so we can see everyone. And perhaps Joseph would like to join us for the end of the service.
And Stephen, do you have the challah? Phew. Then we can make Kiddush. Oh, we've got, and the Solomons have got challah too. I thought we'd finish with the final blessing, though, that's from the Dead Sea Scrolls, since I showed you the fragment of Tefillin manuscript, while Joseph joins us, which is on page 529, the foot of the page. Yivarechecha b'chol tov v'yishmorecha mikol ra, v'ya'ir libcha b'seichel chayim v'yachonecha b'da'at olamim v'yisa pnei chasadav l'shlom olamim. May God bless you with all good and keep you from all evil. May God teach your heart the meaning of life and grant you knowledge of the infinite. May God reach out to you with tenderness that you may have enduring peace. And Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom to you.
Joseph is with us. Thank you, Joseph, for
Shabbat Shalom.
definitely. The ending was wonderful. Thank you. It was worthwhile persevering.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was all actually okay our end, but just the complexity of the screen share, I think, was the main thing. But anyway, thank you very much, and Shabbat Shalom, everybody. Nice to see you all.
Shabbat Shalom. I'd like, Janet, would you like to do the Hamotzi? Since you've got a nice collar after the...
Yeah.
Great. Okay.
Well, you in advance. Okay, everyone, if you wish to unmute yourselves and join in, so we can be even more out of sync.
V'shamru b'nei Yisrael et
Shabbat, לעשות את השבת, לדורותם ברית עולם, ביני ובית בני ישראל, אותי לעולם,
שנים עשה אדוני
את השמיים ואת הארץ, וביום השביעי Shabbat
remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam moreh peri hagafen.
Amen. Chaim.
Holy water. Go for it, Janet.
Baruch
atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz.
Amen.
Amen. Amen.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Shabbat Shalom. You didn't finish it, baby. Shabbat Shalom.
Rabbi Neil, thank you for a lovely service, despite all the difficulties. It was really lovely.
Well, as always.
A very memorable sermon, I must say. I found it absolutely fascinating. You know, and it shows that it pays to put things in clay. They do last better.
Absolutely.
Janice, I wish you long life.
Yeah. Hello, look who we've got on our screen.
Oh, look.
Hello, Adia.
Hello.
Hello. How are you?
I'm fine.
Good.
You shouldn't hide so often. Tell your daddy to keep you more visible in future.
Okay.
Joshua.
Hello, Joshua.
Hi.
Shabbat
Hello. How are
Shalom.
you doing? Shabbat Shalom to you.
Hello.
Neil, years ago, I read a book out of the synagogue library that said Deuteronomy was actually written by a woman.
Really?
Yeah, prove it. How did they prove it?
Well, it was in a book, so it must be
It was written down. It was printed.
That explains why it's so difficult to understand.
Oh, careful.
Right, you can't touch
Good.
me.
It's all right. Yellow. Oh, so it's got writing on it, but yellow card there.
Oh, yeah.
One more, and you put in the waiting room.
Hello, Felicity. Oh, I'm glad you're able to join us.
Hi, Felicity. Thank you for accompanying us.
Hi, Felicity.
Felicity, your voice comes out so beautifully loud and clear. It really is very, very clear and on the note. It's a joy to listen to.
Thank you. Well, I have a new microphone, so that might be helping.
I saw that impressive piece of kit.
Yes, the audio visual companies have also benefited in the last few weeks of lockdown, I think.
Yeah.
I seem to have bought an awful lot of kit. Yeah.
Well, I bought mine from Mark, so.
Mark's
benefited an awful lot.
Yeah, I've been hoovering up anything cheap on eBay. I think so far I've bought about 6 microphones and 5 interfaces for the computers, which have been going out to various of the singers who work with us. And,
well, he definitely got it for me much cheaper than if I bought it myself, so I consider it a win-win.
Yeah, and we are getting them. My apologies. As you kind of all could tell, getting this Jam Kazam thing working is moderately difficult, and it's not so much the technology as actually the syncing up between. It means we end up with, we had 2 singers in Jam Kazam and myself as the Jam Kazam host, plus Daniel very kindly then doing the Zoom end of it, and that then of course meant that also is Neil and Kevin. That's quite a lot of people who need to stay synchronized about what we're doing, and particularly when we hit any issues about how we're then dealing with them. So I think, as Kevin said, we should pick that up Monday evening at R&P, just to make sure we can.
We will. Well, that's all it is. That's what the good thing is, that we'd like to try new things. We're not scared to, and not being put off if perhaps it's not perfect. So that's fine.
So thank you for bearing with us.
And I'd like to claim my title as the bad workman in this case. So,
when you're singing a song,
we should all do
bear in mind it's a learning curve, and as you saw, things got better towards the end.
Yeah.
So I think it's early to say no to Zam Kazam, because.
So Daniel, presumably that means we should really have started the service at 10 before everybody joined us.
Oh, Mark started with me at 9:30.
We could start praying really early, though. We could do like an early morning.
Exactly, that's the secret. Yeah. Okay, we'll bear that.
I was praying throughout.
You did a great job. Thank you, Daniel.
Well done,
Thanks, Daniel. Yeah.
Thank you all.
Right.
Stephen, yeah, you can get back to Sean.
Bye, Stephen.
Back to the cricket, Kevin.
And great to see you again, Neil. Thank you.
And you, Mark.
Hello,
Bye. Bye, dear. Bye, Joshua.
Bye.
Everybody.
Neil, I was admiring the picture behind your head. Is that by anyone in particular?
This is by me.
By
on
you?
On my Chinese technology phone of the field opposite our house.
Fantastic.
Last year.
Now, where is this, Neil?
I mean, it's in Hertfordshire, but the
that doesn't narrow it down. Where exactly? I'm quite interested.
Are we still live streaming?
Yes.
Yeah, do you want to stop the live stream, Kevin?
But actually, I went back to the field this year.
Stop the live stream.
The farmer had so last year it was all poppies and cornfields, and the